The Flint Water Crisis. Presentation by Quinaya Tufor.
According to the U.S. Water Alliance, over 2 million Americans are living without access to potable water and sanitation. Of those 2 million, African American, Latinx, and Native American households are most affected. African American households are almost 2 times as likely to be living without plumbing than white households are. African Americans in Flint, Michigan are a prime example of this. Flint, Michigan's ongoing water crisis and its detrimental effects are a direct result of negligence, classism, and environmental racism. According to the U.S.
About Flint. So the city of Flint was founded as a village in 1819, and it is the birthplace of vehicle manufacturer General Motors. As for race demographics, Flint is 53.7% Black or African American alone, 39.7% white alone, and 3.9% Hispanic or Latino. Of these residents, 40% of them live below the poverty line. Underlying causes. The financial emergency. So in 2011, Michigan's Governor Rick Snyder announced that the city of Flint was in a state of financial emergency. Following, Snyder hired an emergency manager and granted him the responsibilities of local governments and city officials. In an attempt to save $5 million for the city, in 2014, the emergency manager changed the city's water source from Lake Huron to the Flint River. When the Flint River became Flint's primary drinking water source, contaminated water nearly instantly hit the homes of almost 100,000 residents. Contaminants. So one contaminant that was found in Flint's water was fecal coliform. It is a bacteria that can cause dehydration, diarrhea, kidney failure, and flu-like symptoms. A second contaminant was lead. Lead can cause developmental delays in children, high blood pressure, reduced fertility, and chronic diseases. A third contaminant found in the water were trihallomethanes, and these can cause skin irritation, adverse effects on the central nervous system, kidneys, and heart, and it is a probable human carcinogen, which means that it could probably cause cancer, or possibly cause cancer. Legionnaire's disease. So Legionnaire's disease is an atypical pneumonia that comes from Legionella bacteria. It can be found in contaminated water, and it spreads through mist in the air. So if someone were to be taking a shower with water that contained Legionella bacteria, then the person taking the shower and anyone who came into the bathroom or the shower area and inhaled the mist in the air from the steam of the shower is most likely going to contract the disease. And the person showering is most likely going to contract the disease. So when people have Legionnaire's disease, they usually experience pain in the upper body and muscles, shortness of breath, headaches, and diarrhea. In 2014, the city of Flint experienced a Legionnaire's disease outbreak. 90 residents contracted the disease, and 20 of these residents died. Avoiding the water crisis. So in 2014, General Motors employees at the Flint plant noticed that the new water was causing their parts to corrode, and this is the water from the Flint River. So the company took it upon themselves to experiment with many different anti-corrosion techniques, but nothing worked. In the summer of 2014, the heads of General Motors negotiated a deal for the company to go back to using water from their original source, Lake Huron. It is said that Governor Snyder may have helped General Motors secure the Lake Huron deal. By the winter of 2014, General Motors was back to using clean water from Lake Huron. Although it is a good thing that General Motors got access to clean water, the question to be asked here is how? The power of class. So the General Motors officials were able to get their parts production back on track because they had the money and power to do so. With close to half of Flint's residents living below the poverty line, it is highly unlikely that any of them are financially secure enough to source their own water from Lake Huron. While General Motors was able to pay their way out of a water crisis, the people of Flint were left in a hole that they could not get out of. The water crisis expanded. Denmark, South Carolina. So the residents of Denmark, South Carolina have had rust-colored water entering their homes for the past 11 years. Because the old water lines have not been kept up with, they are eroding. Denmark has 4 water wells that connect to one shared system that disperse water into the entire city. So in an attempt to control the amount of iron bacteria in one of the wells, a non-environmental protection agency approved chemical called halosan was poured into one of the wells. After that, 40 of Denmark's 3,000 residents believed that the halosan contaminated water made them sick. Newark, New Jersey. So Newark, New Jersey experienced a share of lead contamination in their water during the summer of 2017. Like Flint in Denmark, the water pipes in Newark began to corrode, and the metal within the lead service plumbing lines started mixing with the water, ultimately contaminating it, and some of Newark's pipes haven't been changed in over 100 years, so they're very old. A protest occurred outside the 2019 MTV Music Video Awards, which was located in downtown Newark. And the protest happened because people were hoping to bring awareness to the city's ongoing water crisis. A multitude of protesters were arrested that night, and the situation really illustrates the fact that minorities are facing a lot of issues in America, and one of them is environmental racism, and their voices are going unheard while they have to survive off of the bare minimum. Remedies. So to avoid water contamination in the future, all old and corroded pipes should be removed and replaced. Attentiveness is essential in ensuring that people will not consume contaminated water. The city of Flint should do regular pipe checkups from now on. Accountability is also important because there's an example to be made out of the regulators and city of Flint employees that allowed a water source change to occur without taking the proper precautionary measures first. So far, some of the people involved in the water change have faced criminal charges. And lastly, it is important to bring awareness to the issue. Publicizing Flint's water crisis has brought and will continue to bring a great deal of change to the city. Flint's circumstances have gotten a tremendous amount of media attention, which have resulted in donations and support from the entire nation. Environmental racism. So despite the commonalities in the way Denmark, Newark's, and Flint's water has been affected, a recurring theme in all of these situations is the fact that minorities are being impacted the most. It goes to show that environmental racism, which is the disproportionate impact of environmental hazards on people of color, is very real. Progress. So today in Flint, over 25,000 service lines have been inspected and 85% of pipes have been replaced. Water in most areas of Flint is now deemed safe to drink, and new copper pipes are being installed throughout the city. Conclusion. Since 2014, residents of Flint, Michigan have undergone a disastrous water crisis that has exposed them to various water contaminants. While many residents have had their water service lines and pipes evaluated or changed, or both evaluated and changed, COVID-19 has caused a delay in the city's ability to reach every household. So there are still some households who have not had their pipes changed. The water crisis is a direct outcome of 3 things: negligence, classism, and environmental racism. Negligence was the cause of the water crisis, but classism and environmental racism kept it going. Thank you.